Hey guys, and welcome to another maths challenge question. Let's have a read of this one together. So the arithmetic mean A of any two positive numbers x and y is defined to be this, and their geometric mean, g, is defined to be this. For two particular values x and y, where x is greater than y, the ratio of the arithmetic mean to the geometric mean is 5:4. For these values of x and y, what is the ratio of x to y? Interesting question. Okay, have a pause of the video, have a go at it yourself, and then unpause, and we'll try and work it out together. Okay, very interesting question. The main useful bit of information is this ratio that it gives us. So let's just write that down and try and use that somehow. So a to g we know is 5:4. Okay, and the good thing is we know that a is equivalent to half x plus y, and g is equivalent to root xy. Okay, so what does this ratio actually mean? Well, if we have a ratio of 5:4, that means that a is larger than g by a fraction of 5/4. So if we try to form an equation, we would get 4a equals 5g. Okay? Now, some people get a bit confused when converting ratios into equations because it's the opposite numbers. But let me try and explain it. A equals 5/4g is what this ratio is saying. It's saying that a is larger than g, so g needs to be multiplied by this 5/4 fraction in order to equal a. Okay, cool. So we formed this equation, and now we can substitute in what a equals into this and what g equals into this. Cool, so let's find that equation. So we're going to get 4 lots of a half x plus y equals 5 lots of root xy. Okay, cool. So it looks like we're going to have to try and simplify this down. So I can multiply the 4 and the half, that just gets 2, and I can expand that with the x plus y. Or I can just leave it factorized. I'll just leave it factorized. So we have 2 lots of x plus y equals 5 lots of root xy. Okay. Now the thing is, we have this square root here. So it looks like we may have to square both sides in order to get rid of that square root. Okay, let's do that. So if we square both sides, we're going to get 4 lots of x squared plus 2xy plus y squared equals 25 lots of xy. Cool. So where do we go from here? Well, it may be useful to get everything onto one side equal to 0. Let's do that. So if we expand this bracket and we minus this to both sides, we're going to get 4x squared. We'll have plus 8xy minus the 25xy. That's minus 17xy. Plus 4y squared equals 0. Okay, now the question is, where do we go from here? What we're trying to come up with is we want an equation with x to y, and that will give us the ratio of x to y. The problem is we have this ugly quadratic. So what I'm trying to think is, can I maybe factorize this? That would be useful because it equals 0. Okay, let's think about how we can factorize this then. So what do we need in our brackets? Let's just have a play around with some algebra. What if we had 2x minus 2y and we squared that? Well, this would be good because we would get the 4x squared. We would also get the positive 4y squared. But for our xy term, what would we get there? We would get minus 8xy, which is not good for us. Okay, So it looks like we're not going to get a squared term. What if we had 4x plus y? We know that's going to be minus. What if we had 4x minus y and we had x minus 4y? What would that get us? Well, we would get the 4x squared and we would get the 4y squared. We would also get minus 16xy minus xy. This actually works. Okay, cool. Okay, because when we expand this, we get 4x squared, we get the plus 4y squared, and when we do minus y times x, we get minus xy. And when we do 4x times minus 4y, we get minus 16xy. And when we combine these two together, we get minus 17xy. Sweet. So we've been able to factorize it. Okay, and therefore, we know that 4x equals y or x equals 4y are solutions to this. Cool. Okay, but which one is correct? Well, it looks like that's where this piece of information here is going to come in. X is greater than y. If we need 4 lots of x to equal y, that would mean that x is actually smaller. However, that contradicts this statement. So we know that this equation is the correct one. Cool. And now all we have to do is convert this equation into a ratio. Okay? To do that, we swap the coefficients to the other side. So the ratio is going to be 4 to 1, right? Because this is saying that x is 4 times bigger than y. And that's what we've done in this ratio here. So the answer is 4 to 1, and we can see that that is E, 4 to 1. So that is our answer, and we're done with the question. Cool, bit of a fun question there. The hardest part of that was getting to this step here and then factorizing it, because students aren't really used to factorizing an equation with multiple variables, x and y. They're usually just comfortable with factorizing in one variable. But cool, we had to play around with some different coefficients, and we realized that this was the factorized form we needed. And then the rest was quite easy from there. Cool, so I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.